No, I think it's
Okay. So I want to do about a tuim on Parashat Tazria.
Tazria. Oh,
So let me ask with a couple of questions so we have a clear picture. Turim Kedarko B'Kodesh is very interesting. He has like 5 words. Everything that he says is very, very. How many types, how many species, I should say, of kosher animals exist? Not bears, animals.
3.
How many what?
How many species of kosher animals?
5.
5.
4. Is it 4 or 5?
10.
10?
10. They're all listed in Parashat Re'eh. They're all listed in Parashat Re'eh. There are 10 species of kosher animals.
I didn't take the misses.
Right. Right. So our friend over here said 3. Can I ask you why you said 3?
3 domesticated.
3 domesticated. There are only 3 kosher domesticated animals: cattle, the cow family, sheep, and goat. Those are the only 3, and there are 7. There are 7 not domesticated ones, what we call wild ones. Right, there are the deer and the antelope family. There is
bison.
The bison. Bison is actually a question. If it's a type of cattle,
But it's not in the
if it's
3.
a type of cattle, no. If it's a type of cattle, if it's a different it's a question if bison is a subcategory or a category. It's a question in poskim. If bison is a subcategory of cattle, or if it would be, if it is a different category into itself, to right? If it's bison, it's and it has big enough kohenut. Bison meat is sold in America and in Europe. Kosher bison meat is also available. And it makes big difference in halacha. Chelev of a domesticated animal is asur, but a chelev of a non-domesticated animal is kosher. So that will be one difference. And another very practical difference is that you need to do kisui adam on a non-domesticated animal. So the
birds.
And birds, that's right. So the slaughterhouses that do bison, they cover it without a bracha because it's a safek, and obviously chelev, nobody is very much into fat these days, but fat is sold, part of your chopped meat, this and that. We make sure that the chelev part, the fat that is chelev, is also, so that also they take it off misafek. But be that as it may, and draft, obviously draft is one of the kosher ones. The very last one listed in Parashat Re'eh is zamer. Zamer is the Hebrew for draft.
It's very, very expensive, $500,000 each.
That's right. So there are only 10 species of kosher animals. Which animals could you bring as a korban on Mizbeach?
The 3.
The 3 domesticated ones. Non-domesticated animal cannot be brought as korban. And you never have a deer or a mountain goat or a giraffe brought as a korban. And one of the reasons it seems from Chazal, one of the reasons is because an owner didn't feed them. They ate from different places, so they may have damaged other while eating. The giraffe passes by and takes a branch of my tree. So how are we going to bring that giraffe as a korban? It's an unbelievable idea. Unbelievable idea. All right.
What about birds?
So that's why Mishnah brings down what bears, their stomach had to be thrown, cannot be brought near the mizbeach. Right.
I see.
Okay.
How about if you can find a cattle that is not domesticated?
What do you mean?
Like you find it on the مثلا رفت توی
Oh, okay. Let me explain domesticated. See, domesticated is not whether it is in a farm right now or not. Domesticated is something in their nature. Domesticated is something in nature. Chazal tell us cats are not domesticated. For dog is the only thing that is a machloket. Right? Dog is a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanon, if I'm not mistaken, whether it's considered a domesticated animal or non-domesticated animal. But cat, everybody agrees, non-domesticated. See, cats...
What domesticated? What does it mean?
So what does domesticated mean? Domesticated is those animals who their nature is they are fine to live with animals and in captivity. And when I go to zoos, I speak to zookeepers a lot. I told that thing, I said this another time, my kids don't like it. If I go to a museum, I have to read everything. They want to watch
You
it.
have to enjoy, not to read.
Right? So I talk to zookeepers a lot. You know, almost all animals in zoos, they don't give birth. These animals are not created to be holed up. They need an open range. We talked about bison. The bison meat, the ranches in Texas, big ranches, the bison runs around, and then every day they go with the jeep, they take 2 or 3, whatever, that are fully grown, they send it to the slaughterhouse. You cannot raise them in a pen like you do cattle, like you do sheep. They don't. They don't grow. They don't live as long, and their birth rate drops, plummets. It's their nature. Their nature. A deer needs to be open, needs to be run. They're not at home in being. That's what domesticated. We humans, we like to live in a house, and they are fine with chickens. Are fine with it also. So are the sheep and the cattle, etc. These are domestic. That's what domesticated. They're domestic. They're okay to be farmed and raised. Whereas,
what about buffalo?
right? So I just said buffalo also. They don't pen them up. They don't do well.
Is it kosher?
Oh, buffalo is kosher. Buffalo is kosher, but you know, American buffalo is extinct. When white man came to America, right? The Indians, buffalo was their main source of food. Buffalo hide was their shelter, right? The one thing, if you want to know a little bit of history, the one thing that turned the tide against the Indians in early 1800s, when the Indians and the Americans, they're all those, the white man, I should say, they had all those clashes. The one thing that really doomed the Indians' fate was the extinction of buffalo. They lost their food, they lost their shelter, right? Their whole society was dependent on buffalo herds.
And we don't have any buffalo?
There are no more. American buffaloes are extinct.
What do we have?
Whenever you hear buffalo in America, it's a misnomer. They mean bison. There is European buffalo, which is a different subspecies, but American buffalo is extinct.
For good.
For good.
And it's kosher.
It was kosher. Yeah. It is kosher.
The bison is kosher too.
The bison is also
so
kosher.
What is koi? Koi.
Koi, some say, is a Steinbock. It's a type of
it's not buffalo?
mountain goat.
Koi is not buffalo?
I don't think it's buffalo. I don't think it's buffalo. There are yaks. There are different animals that are out there. Good. And anyway, European buffaloes are a little bit smaller than what American buffaloes used to be. It's a different subspecies. All right, going back. So we have 3 species that are domesticated. That's what domesticated means. Domesticated means they are okay and they thrive in being with humans, in being farmed, in being put in a pen, etc., etc. So that's animals. 10 and 3. How about birds? How many kosher bird species?
Many.
Thousands. Thousands of kosher bird species.
Non-kosher ones we know.
Non-kosher ones are listed in Torah for 24 super categories. That means you may have subspecies. Subspecies, like, you know, one of them is owl. Now, owl may have a lot of subspecies. But there are only 24 species that are not kosher. The rest of them are, yes, kosher. Now, of all the kosher birds in Torah, only a couple of them are named. Only a couple of them are named. Now, only 2 types of birds are kosher to be brought of korban. Of thousands of kosher birds, only 2 of them are kosher to be brought as korban. Which are what?
Yonah.
Bnei Yonah, but yeah, Yonah
and Tor.
Tor. Right. Tor and Bnei Yonah. Dove and turtle dove, they are translated. And an interesting thing, also, Tor is only kosher as an adult Tor. A Tor, the bird Tor, he always says Torim, which means it has to be adult. If before it reaches adulthood, it is not kosher to be brought as a korban. And Bnei Yonah, he always says Bnei Yonah, because once they are past their chick stage, they cannot be brought. They could only be brought as chicks. Bnei Yonah. And Gemara says, so you know, the middle stage, what we would call like, you know, the teenager, the formative years, is possible by both of them. When they are out of the chick stage, but not into adult stage, both of them in that stage, both of them cannot be brought as a korban. Okay, are we ready? All right, now we're ready to start the Balaturim. Every time in Torah says bring korban of a bird, it says Shete Torim or Shete Bnei Yonah. Always preference is given to Tor. Tor is the more preferred one. If you will, Tor is the Mehadrin of the birds. You have a choice. You could bring Tor, you could bring Bnei Yonah. But which one is the Mehadrin one? Tor. Every single time in Torah, except once. Right? Excuse me? What did you say, Nir? Except once. Except once. So now, where is that? It's in beginning of Parashat Tazria.
So Parashat Tazria,
In the beginning of Parashat Tazria, if you look, Pasuk Vav. If you look at Pasuk Vav, it says, "U'milot yemet tahora." A woman after she gives birth, Tavi keves ben shanato leola. She must bring a lamb as an korban ola, uben Yonah or Tor, and a dove chick or a turtle dove lechatat for chatat. You see, the order over here is opposite of every other instance in Torah. Tens of instances. This is the only one that is opposite.
And why?
The question is why. Why over here preference is given to Ben Yonah? Okay, look at Balaturim.
Coincidence.
Yeah.
ובין יונה או תור. בכל מקום מקדים תורה לבני יונה.
בכל מקום מקדים תורים לבן יונה. Every case in Torah, Torim is always set first. חוץ מכאן, except here. לפי שאינו מביא אלא אחד. Because this is the only instance when one bird is brought as korban. In every other cases where a bird is brought as korban, Torah says both of them bring korban, the chatat and the olah. So there is a pair that is brought. So if you bring a pair, bring the one that, let's call it halachically is mehadrin, is better, which is Tor. But over here only one is brought, so one is brought, so why should halacha change? Why should halacha? Therefore, as long as he could bring a chick Yonah, he should not pick a Tor. That's why Torah says Ben Yonah first. I want you to bring Ben Yonah. I don't want you to go after the Tor, which I prefer, Hashem says usually. I don't want you to do that. As long as possible, bring Ben Yonah. Why is that? Why is that? Because we know that Tor is one of the few birds, that mate for life. Tor is one of them.
Made for life.
Mate for life.
Mate.
Yeah.
Mate for life.
Faithful.
Right? The Tor is one of them. If their mate, once their mate deceases, they never pair up again. They never pair up again. Right? And they have this issue, the environmentalists have this issue with some birds that are extinct and in danger. There is no way they won't. They just won't. They won't mate ever again. So now Torah is one of them. So says Balaturim that Hashem tells us, Torah tells us, do not bring a Torah, even though Torah is Mehadrin, because there is only one korban over here, one necessity. When you bring a pair, you bring a pair. When you bring one, you need to think. This one costs two. The mate,
family.
right? The mate will never find another mate. You need to be considerate. You need to be considerate, right, of the mate of the bird. Right. So now here is the issue that I have.
the Torah does not mate, or the Yonah doesn't mate?
Torah doesn't. Maybe Yonah doesn't either. But Yonah is always a chick. It's before its mating age anyway.
See right there.
Oh.
Right. Ben, before.
But Torah does not.
Yeah, it's
Torah does
age.
not.
See that? What's it? Ben Yonah?
Yeah.
What's the age?
שעוקר כנף ומתמלא מקום עיקרו דם.
No. What's the age?
It says, as long as you take the feathers and it will bleed. It's the feather, the skin is so soft that it's a
And
chick.
it gives you also the age.
I don't know. Not on the birds. Birds there are no ages.
Torah and Yonah are male and female of the same
No,
species?
no, they're two different species. One
So
is
what's
translated as dove, one is translated as turtle dove.
So what does it mean that they don't? So I don't understand this.
Tor is more preferred.
Yes,
Usually bring a Tor if possible. It's the
Right.
more Mahadrin one.
yes.
But because in every other case
You bring
when
two.
you bring two.
The
But it-
husband and the wife, you bring? No.
Well, that's
How do you know which one?
that's what I want to talk about. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I want to talk about. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Right? But in this case, says Balaturim, Torah tells us Ben Yonah is preferred because if you take a Torah, then you will ruin the mate, the spouse also. Whereas Ben Yonah is by definition a chick, hasn't had time to even be thinking of a mate yet. Okay?
Uh-huh.
So that's my question to you. Who says we have to bring a couple, a pair?
Well, let's say we just said it. Because you just said
You
it. If
just
not,
said it.
what do you
Torah
do? The
just
other-
told you.
You make two
If
mitzvot.
Torah, that's what I think most people perhaps miss the point over here. If Torah tells us, look, don't bring the mehadrin for me. Look around, see what is the sensitive way to bring it. That is the more mehadrin for me.
Right.
That means Torah is telling you one case to teach you how to live your life. If we go out of here, right, and we say, oh, you know what? By the case of a woman, the Mahadrim one is Ben Yonah. And that's all we learned from here. We missed the whole point. What is the whole point? The whole point is, remember, even when you want to bring a korban, don't forget your sensitivity. You want to pick Mahadrim, don't forget sensitivity. Don't forget what this world is all about. Do not turn off your brain. Do not turn off trying to feel and be considerate for others. And we've said this many, many, many times. If Torah teaches us how considerate we need to be to animals and other things, then then think about humans,
I have a question.
right? Let's just get the message. That is what really fired me up. What fired me up is when you tell people, okay, so Torah says this is more matter. That's not what Torah says.
Yeah.
Torah says if you haven't been doing it all other places, you miss the point. You absolutely missed the point. Over here, I'm telling you, so you translate this halakha all over. Now, you are right that not everybody may be aware, but at least if we are aware, this is how our life should be. This is how our life should be. Right? I was learning with a couple at Aish. We were talking about the mitzvah of Kedoshim Tiyu, this week's parasha. Right? Not last Shabbat's parasha, this coming Shabbat. So what does Kedoshim Tiyu mean? Right? And this is a question not I don't ask, but Farshim asked, but I challenge them. So what does it mean to be holy? It says to keep Sabbath. But Torah already said keep Sabbath. To do kosher, but Torah already said. So I said, you realize whatever you will answer me, if it's in Torah, I'll tell you Torah already said. If it's not in Torah, I'll tell you who said. Right? So, but what is it? It's what is not in Torah. That's the whole point. Torah says, I'm giving you a guideline to decide to learn what kind of a person you should be. Yes, all these things are mitzvot that I want you to do. But if one does only the letter of the law, he missed the whole point. He absolutely missed the whole point. I wouldn't have said it. I would shudder to say these words, but Ramban says it on that pasuk of Kedoshim to you. Says this pasuk tells us that a person could keep every single one of Taryag mitzvot, and he's going to be Naval B'Reshut Torah. Right? So that's what it is. That's a good example here. If you take from Torah that a lady who gave birth She, the Mahadrim for her is Ben Yonah, and that's all a person got. He missed the point. He missed the point. That's what Kiddushim to you means. Kiddushim to you means I take Torah, I allow it to change me, my core, who I am, to connect me to my true, godly, divine self. That is Kiddushim to you. And these are the types of messages that throughout Torah, and again, the words of Ramban, all the mitzvot Torah are examples. Are examples. This is the Meshalim to teach you. So what type of person you should be. Not that, okay, this is that's what I told you and that's it. Now, yes, not everybody may be learned enough, not everybody may be sensitive enough. Well, sensitivity is a learned trait like anything else. We may need help, we may need our rabbis, our teachers, etc. That's just fine. As long as we have the correct attitude that this is what it is. But if we have the attitude of, no, who said? That's what Torah said. Who said I should do more? Well, then something is missing. Yes?
First, before I forget, why we bring this on a birth? Is this related?
The wise of Korbanot, I can't do better than Chinuch. Chinuch says obviously every one of them, every detail. Korbanot have, made a plethora of details. It's amazing. This one has to be this age, that one has to be that age. This Korban is done like this. So all the details, obviously yes, because they work perfectly for your situation. But Chinuch says, could I explain to you every detail? For that you need to be well versed in Kabbalah, and he doesn't. And obviously I do not know.
No, the fact that it's brought on a birth and this
again, there are answers. You're asking me. I don't necessarily.
But okay, the question, the rationale and the sensitivity to the animal. What about? I mean, if you ask me, I would not throw that goat. So you will come to pieces.
Yeah. Right. That's a whole session. We'll talk about it. We will talk about it.
So we shouldn't be sensitive to the other times we bring Torah?
No, that's also sensitive.
No, the other times we bring 2 Torahs.
Right, so there is nothing to worry about.
Why not?
The couple are brought in.
Husband and wife.
Make sure it's a husband and wife.
That's what I'm saying. So that teaches us that as much as it's possible for you, you must try to bring a couple. Why wouldn't you bring a couple? Torah just taught you. That was my point. Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed that. So this lesson, that's what I was saying, it shouldn't apply only to here. It should apply all across. If you see it's wasteful, if you see it's painful, so then don't do it. It's not so mehadrin if other areas are not sensitive. That's exactly the point. If you can't bring a pair, don't bring Torah. Do not bring Torah.
So is a halacha to bring the pair the other time?
It's not a halacha, it's a preference, and that's what Torah taught you. It's not absolute must, because sometimes it may be impossible. But it's telling us that you try, you must do. That's what it's telling us from this source. This is the source of it.
So really, in essence, the teaching here is more important than
this specific case.
Okay.
Exactly. That's what I think. Exactly. The teaching is much more important than the specific case. Right? And it's probably true by a lot of cases.
Otherwise, you can bring two of the Yonah or 2 of Turim and be done.
And don't even think about it. Thank you.